Village of Franklin Planning Commission meeting, regular meeting started for July 16th, in 2025. Time is 7 p.m. Go ahead and do roll call. We'll start from my left.
Quincy Harrison.
Linda Novak, present.
Jeremy Warner present.
Stuart Wooters, present.
Pete Halleck, present.
Sarah Greslick, present.
Paul Brakeman, present.
All right. So for the adoption of the agenda, there's a typo in 10A that for our next regular scheduled meeting, it's August 20th. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, well, we need to update that. Anything else for the agenda that seems out of sorts? Okay, could I get a motion to adopt the agenda with the modification?
So moved.
Okay, a second? Can I get a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, agenda's adopted. Let's review the minutes from last meeting from June 18th. Any draft comments, updates, questions? It's very brief, and a lot of the topics we discussed. Okay. Can we get a motion to adopt the minutes unless we need to be modified?
Motion to adopt the minutes as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Was it second?
Me.
Okay.
Any opposed? Okay, none. All right, so, planning commission official reports. Trustee Solly, you're a council liaison. Would you mind providing a official report if you have something to share?
Yeah, nothing major to report. There was a question from Trustee Hansen around the preparation of the, what's the official name of it?
Master plan.
Yeah, master plan. And so if we can just kind of get an update of it's been a minute since we've all kind of prioritized our thoughts around it. And so if we can just get a summary of kind of where things are at, that'd be greatly appreciated. Other than that, no report.
Okay, thank you. So we have to circle back on the master plan with the administrator having a new administrator. It's, Chief Lawson and I need to discuss where they've been submitted to neighboring communities and there's a time limit on that, so we do need to move on it. I did get a letter from Southfield, with regards to their master plan that was written in 2022 that's being circulated to us too. So I feel like, all right, we're not too bad off.
Yeah, as soon as I saw that date, yeah.
It happens to others where our completed master plan is now taking a year or so to get out to everyone. We're kind of in line with how that works. Just a few comments. So we did meet with, Linda showed up with me to the historic district commission meeting, and we presented the R3 discussion with them. Kind of the outcome, they were really pleased that we're including them in these discussions. Several of them parroted what you had mentioned, what had been mentioned in our previous meeting with regards to zoning approval and tentative historic district commission approval prior to zoning approving some of the changes in the historic district. And they would be willing to utilize their meeting to cover specific collaboration topics. And one of the ideas that came out of that meeting was, as we go through the R3 regulations, break it into chunks of concepts. So not just the whole thing at one time, but break it into concept chunks, and then bring those to their meeting with that information. So I know the two main topics we talk about are setbacks and fences, but we would just talk about one or the other, or anything else that comes up in between.
Did they have anything in addition to those two that they were interested in?
No, this was their first real exposure to what we've been planning and discussing. Though we have been discussing this for a while, it was the first time that they had a chance to really kind of dig into it before their meeting. But no, nothing additional. But they are willing to. They want to work with us on this topic.
Wonderful.
And then, with regards to,
Can I ask a question about that one, or you're gonna move on?
oh, if it's the same topic, yeah, go ahead.
Same topic is, so my understanding, I did watch it, and I thought you guys did great, and with a real good, healthy exchange. It's good to see and good to get their input. Are we gonna try the meetings, before their HDC meetings, where we co-attend?
No, it would actually be during their meeting. So they,
Okay, first on the agenda type of thing?
That type of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, okay,
Right.
okay. And I don't know, Heather, I know we have texted in the past, but I would love to have been at that meeting. And it's one of those things where you read the email 2 days after the meeting occurs. So, I'm certainly receptive to texting when we have some things that are kind of short notice. I don't know how short notice it was, but
the first.
I don't always get those, darn. It was something unusual, put it that way. I always look for I know when to look for certain things, but it would help.
So by the end of our discussion today, if we have a topic we want to specifically talk to the HGC about, then we will have until the first Wednesday in
Yeah,
August to
it's the
discuss
first
it.
week of August, or
Right.
first week of the month.
So you'll know coming out of this meeting that we have to. Now, the reminder situation, I also am guilty of forgetting. It's why it took me so long to get there the first time. It's because I forgot 1 month to go to the meeting.
But I will say, though, that it's great. It's great to see that interaction, and, I regret that I wasn't there, so.
We'll have plenty of opportunities. So they were not in favor of having an individual committee, a subcommittee that met separately. That's why they wanted to meet, use their
I like
their
that,
meeting.
full council, or commission to commission, engagement.
And council was appreciative of that as well. Several of the trustees I spoke to about that, they were glad that we're collaborating. And then with regards to the blight nuisance abatement discussion you received in your packet today. In addition, and on Monday were sent the rain garden comment, and then I believe there's one that was on fences that came in just today. So we'll see what we can get to on that regard, with that memo with regards to that today, the fencing ordinance, which is relative to what other neighborhoods do in the historic districts of their neighborhood. That was a task that came out of the HGC meeting, and it made it into our packet before the meeting. So I understand if you want to be hesitant to include that. The other consideration, though, also was the rain garden discussion, since that's something that the village also tries to encourage. So if you had a chance to read it, great. I'd like to still include that in our discussion. Other than that, those are the three topics that I kind of wanted to bring up in my chairperson report.
And the rain garden was, you feel it's related to the, what, we're calling it the nuisance?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's related in that it conflicts with what some people consider nuisance. Right, so.
Is that something, do you know how that was brought up to attention?
I brought it up.
So you observed
Because
the rain
I
garden?
read the emails from the village and they're saying you should have
You
a rain
have
garden.
seen it? Okay.
Yeah, I've looked through my email chains,
All right.
to find it, so.
Yeah.
Chairman Wooters, are you wanting to amend the agenda and include those items?
They are, I consider them part of those discussion points,
Okay, perfect.
so.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, any official report or anything that you would like to report back to us?
I guess I have an unofficial report. Since our restaurant is open and doing great guns, it's a case study in parking right now. Yeah, and I think that's something the planning commission has contributed quite a bit to. Something I've thought about a lot. I think it is the one of the pivotal questions as to whether how thriving our business district can be. I think most of us know that we had a store for 150 years. I think someone brought up at the council meeting that they're opening a new store, thinking about it. I think just north of Shari Zedek, not Shari Zedek, but 13
Temple
and
Bethel.
Temple Bethel 14 and
He
Telegraph.
said 14.
I heard
and
some of the rumor about that as well, like they're wanting to open a grocery
think-
store near, like, the first they said 13 over here, but we're like, no, that's a financial building.
And I heard that there was a housing development.
Me too, me too.
So,
But,
and that was pretty, I mean, it named who the builder was, so I don't know. I can't imagine another market going in at 14 in Telegraph when you have one at 12 in Telegraph and Maple in Telegraph.
Yeah.
right, right. But food is a thing, right? Food is a thing that people like, unlike a lot of retail stuff, which is being affected. But, there's some of us who would love to see, and perhaps our new restaurant and associated building, the old Deja Vu building, Polly Cracker, help me out, Polly Baker, whatever it's gonna be, the new little, maybe that'll have some services that'll fill in our vacancy there. But in terms of the parking, it's a good problem to have in a way, 'cause it shows that things are thriving. But we do have this overflow situation right now, and I guess there are some things that, this is another thing to observe, that the building owners need to talk with each other, and I think we can take a role in facilitating that, whether it's Main Street Franklin or any interested party in the village, to come up with something that is fair and allows everyone to flourish and succeed. And right now, I know they're, even though the office building doesn't always look like it's fully occupied, and maybe they have open spots, you need to have agreements in place to do those things. So it's just something I wanted to bring up.
No, I agree. That is a concern, because Main Street hopefully is aware of this situation. I would.
I'm trying to make it aware. but-
Okay, so we have a new president of Main Street, and he's very approachable. I think it's something that we
Yeah.
definitely can work with them on. Another one of those collaboration opportunities.
Sure.
I think it is as well, but I also believe it's Main Street's obligation to bring the concern to council. We can think about it all we want, but it needs to be brought to them. We can, because we've talked about it before, but we can't do anything on it.
I guess
at this moment.
that's a good question. What do you think? And feel free, David, to chime in. Is there anything that the planning commission can do about it, that would be, appropriate? I like to think that purely trying to facilitate some interaction and discussion is good, but.
I think just bringing the general work that the planning commission has previously done and bringing that back to council to make them aware of the information that's already been done, the good work that's been done by the planning commission, I think would be informative.
Yeah.
I have equally heard that parking's been an issue. So hopefully that will get, the gears turning for everybody on council to start to think about, this is a problem. We already have some data on it, and then we can provide more direction if we need anything from the planning commission.
Do you have? Well, this predates me actually. Those reports
It was
actually.
one of my very earliest meetings. I know Mary Helper, am I getting that right? Mary Hepler, did a lot of work on the parking study, and it was like a 10-page thing. So I'll dig through my files. I'll save you some grief, Heather, and because I do think it's in there somewhere, and I'll dig it out and revisit it a little bit.
In the past, during peak periods, the Franklin Grill had to have valets.
Right.
So it
That's
may-
right. And the obvious thing
I
is.
mean, it's really chiefly a matter of enforcement by the police department if people are encroaching on other people's lots, and it would probably fall on the tenant or the owner of the building to make other arrangements so
Yeah.
that's not happening.
Right, that's right. And I always think there's that big, with a valet, there's this big Franklin cider mill parking lot. And that's what, one thing that's been brought to my attention is that, whether previous people in Franklin have sent signals to the owners of the cider mill or whoever it is. You know, I've had Laura Peltz tell me, well, I thought Franklin wasn't interested in talking to us, that kind of thing. So, you know, there you got this big parking lot that's sitting vacant and with valets could solve a lot of problems and help out. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Pete, if you don't mind, if you find it prior to next council meeting, I think it's probably, it'd be more timely if we can address it sooner, if you happen to have the old information. I don't
Sure.
think it needs to necessarily come before us, if it's an old material that we've talked about in the past. Just to revitalize it, that would, I think, encourage the discussion sooner.
That might be the paperwork that, Trustee Sally is talking about bringing to the council, so I can be
Yes.
reminded of it, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Is that okay, if you do find it? Or if not, we can work with Heather to see if we can
I
track
already
it
have a
down.
note, I'll try to find it.
Okay.
We'll both look.
And President Goldberg was also, I think, on on planning during that time. Was
See
Trustee
if he has the
Hanson as
file.
well? Were you on it with her or no?
no,
Oh, she predated you,
She
okay.
had just departed, so, but you're right, I'm sure it's floating around, we'll find it.
All right, sounds good. Any other comments for commissioners or? Okay. Zoning liaison.
There's a meeting tomorrow night. I'm really excited.
All right.
It's back in business.
Yeah.
The gang's coming back together. All right, good. Hopefully it's a productive meeting for y'all. Communication update. Do we have any?
So I proposed to take this off the agenda a couple meetings ago because
Okay.
I had spoken to President Goldberg and I think we had said that, hey, communication has definitely shifted in the village since we got sort of new people involved. But happy to talk about it if someone else still
Well,
has an update.
If we're making progress, I think that one of the reasons why I liked it on here earlier was because with communication on some of the various topics that we're working through with Pickering and then with Main Street, I mean, those I think would line up with the communication we have between the different groups, but we haven't really broken out into going out into different groups individually and then reporting back on those experiences, and those can easily be also done under the commissioners, so we can, go ahead.
I think I think leaving communication update could stay, just because, as you said, individually, us going out, talking to other interested parties and everything, it may be something that no one's on the radar, and this could be our section for, I guess we have it as commissioners, any updates, but it's essentially on there twice, is what I'm saying.
What do you think?
So what are you proposing? I think we're keeping it or not now?
No, I was originally thinking, yeah, keep communication on there for those reasons, but if we're going out individually, we just do that our commissioners report, so we can get rid of it, is what I'm proposing.
Okay, all right. So
I
Heather, let's
was-
make a note to remove it for next meeting then.
Fair enough, and what would be your, since we are taking it off and we're not gonna address it anymore, what, did you feel a takeaway from it? I know, you're very passionate about it, I really respected that level of involvement and engagement. And we heard our village administrator talk on it, and, Dana chimed in on it, this is always a problem with villages, how do you do this communication stuff? Anything that stuck with you that you feel is worth us thinking about?
I think it ebbs and flows, and I think we sort of see like a push for it when we all remember to do it, and then it sort of is easy to deprioritize when other things happen. I also think the other groups have all taken their own way of communicating, so it's kind of hard, like FCA does their own style, the village does. I do think that we're starting to communicate, I think, more as neighbors, and that's what sort of my impression has been. I think I have heard a lot from people of just like, hey, I feel like I know what's going on in the village more than I did, say, a year ago, which is really pleasant, and I think a lot of that had to do with, like, even just how we had the election and people getting out there and communicating with each other, and I think that sort of kept going after, which was really nice. Like, and it really, I think, then people cared about the issues that they were wanting to, talk to people about, and I think that just kept flowing. I do think that there are going to be opportunities always to make it better and prioritize it, but I do think that we just all need to be mindful of being open to hearing from our neighbors and, going out there and asking people their opinions and just, telling other people what's going on in our neighborhood. And I think the more that people know that you're involved or that you care, they're more willing to come to you, and that's what I've seen, and I really appreciate it. I feel like there's been a huge turnover in that sort of passion, and it feels like it's sort of been relit, and it's been really nice, I think, especially after the COVID lull and all of that. It's been nice to sort of see that.
Absolutely, like the grassroots component.
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Thank you. All right. We'll move to budget and expense report. So we've now completed our fiscal year and in the beginning of our new fiscal year, starting July 2025. So we're still waiting on, I think, a few items to come through for June 2025. I'm guessing,
I can't speak to that.
okay, well.
No worries.
Yeah.
Welcome
From last week, as of last, I think Thursday or Friday, nothing has been updated on for our June 2025, and then starting July.
I'll definitely look at it.
Yeah. And then with regards to, when we do send McKenna to the historic HDC meeting with us, if Chris does show up, that falls under our budget because we made that recommendation. So don't take that from HDC, otherwise they might not like us anymore. So, even though he's there on their night, it's at our request. Any comments or questions about it? Okay. And trustee Sally, just to confirm, so the budget for this fiscal year 2025 through July 2025 through June 2026, it's been approved, so there's not going to be any changes on our allocation for next. I guess we don't have our numbers for that budget for next year just yet, but it'll be updated in our next meeting, I'm guessing. Okay, so those are the numbers we'll have to look to for maintaining our budget. All right. All right, so public comments. We do have public here, so thank you.
Chairman Withers, I just want to ask, is it possible that I have a public comment for what's on the agenda and not? It touches just a little what's on the agenda.
Yeah, if you feel like your comment is agenda item adjacent and you'd rather make it now, and you're welcome to do that.
I will try to go very quick, and if I will go over 3, it's going to be by just
Okay.
a little.
No, that,
I'm so sorry, can you please, just for the record, state your name?
Right, yeah, I was going to, yes. Okay, sorry. Okay, may I?
yeah, please.
Sorry, okay. Good evening, Commissioners. Natalia Shoup, 32334 Franklin Road, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak again tonight. After reviewing, first I want to address, after reviewing policies and procedures, I want to address, in my opinion, a violation of established policies and procedures. Back in November meeting, this Planning Commission passed a motion not to recommend changes to the ordinances concerning 6-foot privacy screens and fences in historic district. Because of that decision, further discussion of this issue should not be taking place until the full village council, which in December we had new members, has reviewed both the original McKenna report and the Planning Commission's recommendation letter in regards to these fences. That council never received those. It is important to know that any future action must be decided by the entire village council, not just President Goldberg, as was clearly established at the April meeting when the details of what happened were reviewed. Second, I'd like to bring attention to a comment made by Trustee Seltzer at the last Monday's council meeting. He shared that he recently sold his property in Franklin because he feared his 1840s home might catch fire. I sincerely hope he disclosed that concern to new owners, but if that's a reason for him to sell his house, given that his house sits on a much larger lot than most in historic district, than those of us living in historic district on much smaller lots with closely spaced historic homes have even greater cause for concern. And as you know, I've been coming here with these concerns, fire safety. As you discuss possible changes to zoning regulation in historic R3 district tonight, please keep in mind that these homes were built in 1800s. Our setbacks and fence ordinances were carefully written with both safety and historic preservation in mind. That's why 6-foot privacy screens are only allowed in certain situations and areas, and why fully 6-foot privacy fences around and full 6-foot privacy fences around properties are not appropriate. That's also why setbacks matter, to reduce fire risk, allowing to maintain, repair the property, and preserve spacing between structures. The persons who wants a 6-foot privacy fence should have it closer to their property. That is why arborvitaes were encouraged. These provisions and ordinances were a success, as only 6-foot privacy fences left in historic district. Also, as you know, I come to almost every meeting here on this issue, and last month to HDC, and I do not see residents asking for changes. I've never seen one. As we know, these changes started to accommodate just one family. Also, it is not just about the height or 6-foot or privacy. Most important is the setbacks for safety. And when adjustments are needed, we already have a process through the Zoning Board of Appeals. The ZBA evaluates individual cases and considers specific hardships. Changing ordinances across the board removes that thoughtful case-by-case review. There was never a problem in many, many years until last October, and we know what happened then, as my husband addressed it. Maybe now is also a time to think more seriously about the materials used for fencing. Wood and other flammable options may not be appropriate, and perhaps open burning should be restricted in historic district entirely. Our ordinances should also include safe setbacks for grills and smokers. Just imagine a smoker placed 2 feet from a neighbor's house and windows, next to a tall privacy fence. It is not only a smoke nuisance, it is a real fire hazard. Sadly, this is how some of us are currently living, constantly worrying. Our family knows this firsthand, as this is the situation our family is living with now. And for more than 3 months now, the village has still not addressed an illegally built 6-foot privacy fence that sits less than 2 feet from our house and windows. Lastly, I want to commend our fire chief, Chief Averbush. At the January 27th Bingham Farms Council meeting, he gave an incredible presentation with important fire safety tips and emphasized the importance of having a family fire plan. I highly encourage everyone to watch that meeting. His address starts at 6 minutes 40 seconds and runs for 33 minutes. Chief Averbush even offered support and resources to Franklin and Bingham Farms residents. Specifically, he offered to come to residents' properties, assess potential risk, and provide suggestions on how to make their homes safer, including identifying any changes that may be needed. If any changes are being considered to the zoning regulation in historic R3 district that could increase fire risk, I strongly believe our fire chief should be consulted as part of that process. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Any other comments? And we can address your comments in our line item if that's okay. Yeah, if that's, yeah. Okay, we'll move on from public comments to old business, or consider zoning regulations for R3 district. So in your packet, you have the McKinnon memo from March. And then we also have and in light of, so the question with regards to fire concerns, I don't think we had talked about that previously. So I think it might be something we should consider discussing as part of this discussion as well for the R3 district, because truth is that the setbacks were partially set there in accordance so that you had some space between structures. for safety.
I think the fire safety issue in the R3 district is a separate issue because we're specifically right now focused on the analysis of zoning regulations for R3 and the fences. Otherwise, it needs to be a separate issue that needs to be addressed. Otherwise, we're overloading ourselves every time with this, and we're not progressing in what we're currently addressing.
Okay, so we can add it to, but it is a consideration for how we discuss updating the ordinance potentially.
Correct. So either,
So
then the question is-
Concept, like we talked about having concepts, we have
Yeah.
fencing, we have setbacks, and we have fire. They are obviously somewhat related,
Somewhat
and
related.
that'll be our third concept together.
Well, I think
That
the,
works.
I was gonna say that's why our letter is in here. That's what we're referring to, the letter from Bill Denon.
Well, it's also, Bill mentioned it in the letter, yes.
Okay,
In addition to
so-
what,
I mean, I think it really is a setback. I mean, it's not really related to fences. I mean, Bill was trying to point out that, you know, having buildings on or near beyond the setbacks or inside of the setbacks, you have a building requirement that those walls be fire resistant.
And none of the recommendations that we've set forth so far conflict with what Bill has set forth.
Yeah,
it's just
so
if we,
it's only relevant to the setback items, and it does seem separate from what, you know,
Right.
whether we do it or not, it's required that those buildings have fire resistance, you know, no matter what we,
so before we even had the discussion about fire resistance, it was already required.
yeah, yeah.
So,
And it's only, you know, for buildings that are within 5 feet of a property line, that's how it would affect, that's how it would be a consideration for us.
Right.
okay. So, yeah, we can keep that as a third topic then, if we need to address something that has specifically with regards to this area.
I think that, you know, if it's a serious concern on the part of the planning commission, I can either send the eventual recommendations that we have, or I can even meet with the fire chief to go over the recommendations with him when we get to that point.
Okay.
But at this point, I'm not really too concerned because there's a lot of communities that I'm aware of that have much smaller setbacks than we're even talking about here.
And either way, building code exists for them to, when they build.
Right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So I think that that's a good recommendation, that as we get closer, we still converse with fire chief, to confirm, if there's any concerns that he sees prior to ranking a
Right.
recommendation to council. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. All right, so then let's talk, let's talk about the different, which section do you want to tackle first? Anyone want to make a recommendation? Whether it's fencing or accessory building slash setbacks?
We were just talking about fencing, so why don't we just finish that? and then-
yeah. let's
All
not
right.
fence it out.
Go ahead, let's. Someone like to start out discussions on that?
I guess, did you have much then feedback, anything addition from Historic District on,
No
they
initial,
didn't really have any thoughts? Okay.
I mean, there's the 6 properties that they're aware of, I believe it's 6, right, that have
Correct.
fencing concerns, within the village. So the question then is do we see a need to change the ordinances to accommodate these, or is it better off just letting them stay legally non-conforming, and anything that's out of illegally non-conforming, be taken to council for enforcement? So that's really what it comes down to for the fences, from what I understand, is of the 6, which ones are legally non-conforming, and then which ones are, meaning that they either have a zoning, they either predates the fencing ordinance, or it's, they've gone to zoning board and gotten approval. But other than that, if they've gone to zoning and they have not gotten approval, and they still, then that's a matter of council to enforce, right?
Correct.
Or code enforcement.
or code, well, right, but ultimately council is the one that will, push for, if the code enforcement isn't doing anything, then council still has to be the one that levies.
Sounds right, what you described.
So is there any, but of the 6, is there anything that we feel is requiring a change to accommodate?
Yeah,
You say 6, what?
There's 6 properties,
Okay, so-
6 fences.
I would think, from my limited experience on zoning, an issue that came up repeatedly is what is repairing an existing fence? The difference between repair and replacement. Bill comes up with ideas to what he thinks. Everyone has their own ideas. It's like 50%, is that repair and replace? Or is it you
it's a rule.
do 10% every week? Is that repair or replacement? I think there could be some clarification there, because we were just seeing thing comes up where people want to replace the exact same fence, the exact same spot, but there's an issue with what does it mean to repair versus replace. So I think that could be addressed. So if we, whatever the definition, I think Bill was roughly applying 50%. If we want to actually have an adoption to make that easier.
Like
that
a
would be
time
helpful.
window / percentage?
You know, there's always gonna, someone's gonna always like work around it. It's like, we have all these things that the village can enforce. They're not gonna sue anybody. I have lots of things the village is not doing anything with. So like, it's just the honest people are going to follow it. You can follow, anyone can find a way around essentially.
Are you, if I'm remembering correctly, are you referring to the one where there was a recently horse paddock that was?
So that was
like,
one.
Yeah, I remember
Yep.
hearing that one. It was like,
Yep.
but that had neighbor and community support, was my understanding.
Yeah, there was lots of support for it,
Yeah.
but there wasn't support in the ordinances to replace an existing.
But my
to completely
understanding was the
replace it.
community supported it because these neighbors were spoken to, they did a replacement because it was a safety violation, but they did not change the location of the fence.
Or height?
I don't remember
Or
if it was
with-
a safety violation.
Well, it wasn't a safety violation, it was about safety of keeping the fence up, was my understanding, to update the materials, because it was still a good-looking fence, but they just wanted to
Yeah.
make it more safe for containment. That's
There
my
was nothing to contain. It's
Okay, I didn't know that.
There's
That was
no
my
animals or
understanding.
anything. It was just, they
Okay.
wanted to keep the same, they like the look. It
Okay.
was existing, there's a lot of support.
Part of it's in the front side yard. That's
That's
the
why.
problem.
Gotcha.
That was one of the problems, and it was also too close to the property boundary.
Okay, but I think that is a different scenario, just because like it had the community support behind it.
And zoning took that into consideration,
Yeah.
right?
It was one of several factors
Okay.
that we considered, and also in keeping with, you know, that neighborhood has a lot of that.
But otherwise zoning would have enforced the ordinance as written otherwise if they did not grant that variance, correct?
Correct, they would not have been able to replace that because they took it all out at once, instead of replacing 3
Section
posts
10.
that were bad, 2 railings, and doing it piecemeal.
but it was, predated the ordinance, was it built illegally?
There was some discussion on that. There were letters sent to them in the early 2000s that it was not to code, and then somehow that disappeared. So,
And that's why they went to zoning and.
For variance, okay.
Because,
So I think Quincy, I think, Commissioner Harrison's point about what does it mean to replace versus repair, I mean, it's
think it's like-
nebulous. You'd think it'd be easy, because if a tree fell on a section of your fence, you replace the damaged areas, right? And that makes sense, and if that tree took out 30%, then, and you say 30% is more than a repair to replace, then where does that fall?
and if you had a car that ran off the road and took out your fence that's non-conforming, would you not now be able to put your fence back because someone else did something? So it just, then you'd have to go to zoning, and I don't know.
Right.
so your understanding is that, right now, it is not clear, the ordinance isn't clear what you can do?
It is not clear. There's many
Because I guess-
ideas.
So, the 50% rule is one I hear bantered about, and then I
Yeah.
have to go ask the inspectors, is this a 50% rule? We got a house that's burned down, and we gotta replace the electrical, and do we have to replace all the electrical? But in that case, I'm pretty sure there really is a rule that's in writing. But, since we're talking about a historic district,
I guess this does kind of extend beyond the historic district.
It does, but the
But I
thing,
don't know,
but
that-
it does, but
It's
it's,
not appropriate to discuss, but it's
Well,
still.
what, I guess the point I was going to make was that if there's a fence out there that's been there for 100 years, I think they should be able to repair it under any circumstance. They should be able to keep it the way it is under any circumstance. If it's simply repair, replace. I don't think there should be a 50% rule. I think they should be allowed to take care of it as they choose.
so if it predates the ordinance and it's legally
Yeah,
non-conforming, then they can do repair and replace, and then if they are,
Well,
obviously,
they
if
can only
they
repair, they can't,
repair.
Cannot replace.
they cannot replace.
And
see,
I
Not sure
think
that
in
there's any way of
zoning there-
determining
there
which
are
fences predate the
specific-
ordinance.
I
Because
don't, there's no
we-
specific.
Challenging one,
I
yeah.
think
That is a
Bill was
challenging
kind of like 50%, but I don't think there's a specific, maybe we can look into that.
What have you, what have you
I think
seen?
it's worth looking into the zoning code on that.
Right,
because
what is it?
We have had over the years several people, several times that people came in asking for a variance to repair a fence.
Non-conforming.
And it was denied for various reasons. And I believe that there are some regulations for that. Why don't we
Can we find out? Yeah.
find out about that?
Because I know that even outside of the R3, chain link fence is not one of the fences that we're
Oh, for
usually,
sure,
that,
yeah.
and yet throughout the village, there are
Many.
many. The only allowed chain link fence, according to our fencing ordinance that I remember correctly, is
Tennis court.
tennis courts and dog runs.
And I think swimming pools.
And, yeah, I think swimming pools, yeah, so those were the only permitted at the time, and the way it was done. So if someone's chain link fence that they happen to have that guards their yard,
And I think the idea was always that as things got dilapidated, the idea was that when they were be replaced, if they were non-conforming, they shouldn't be put back because they are not.
Right, but in our case,
They're
we're
not
just talking,
focusing.
we're just talking about R3.
Yeah,
And for me, the criterion is historicity, and I get it, Chris, I know, it's like, yeah, it's hard to determine that. But I think if it can be shown that this is a fence that's been there for even, say, 75 years, that it's worthy of being replaced as they choose, in terms of with like kind. They can rebuild it. They shouldn't have to change it, whether it's 50% or even, I guess there would be a limit on height and that sort of thing perhaps. So that they'd still have to abide by the perhaps the height requirement. Otherwise, the setback issues, I think, could be waived, but that's my opinion.
Pete, wouldn't the year that the house becomes historic, would it not then fall under the rules for the historic district? And I know they have very stringent rules about what you can do to the exterior of a home.
In the historic.
And I'm assuming that would include.
so you're saying that date
Then
onward?
if,
changes to the fence.
that's what I would think.
So do we have a log of historic homes? There was a time when pre-1950.
There has to be. If you're in a historic district
Right.
and your historic home, you have to be registered. So there has to be a log.
You don't have to register it if you're not in the historic district, but
Right.
But if you can go, I believe you
Certainly,
can still have it
they're-
registered.
It's a good question. How many of the homes in the historic district are historic? What's the criterion? Do you know?
No, I don't know that.
I mean,
But I can say that, I can't say off the top of my head, but of the 6 fences that I looked at that are non-conforming, I don't think any of them are 75 years old.
Right, right,
I think a lot of them are, or a number of them are,
right.
I can recall
Stockade.
2 or 3 of them are stockade fences that they purchased at Home Depot that are falling down.
70s.
Yeah.
So they're not, unless they're stockade fences from the Civil War, but I don't know if that's the
Right.
situation. I think they're more likely Home Depot stockade fences.
Okay.
But there are, a lot of ambiguities in the fence regulation that go beyond the R3 district. For example, I've got in my notes here, there's references to buildings versus structures, which makes a big difference. And all through the fence regulations, they interchange the use of those two words. Now, that may not make much difference to you folks here, but in zoning, it's a huge issue. And that's got to be cleared up.
What would be an example of a structure that would,
Well,
that would be different from a fence?
a fence is a structure, it's not a building. And in the fence regulations, they use the term building. And they shouldn't be using the term building. And it's really messed up in that regard. That's just one example. But in the case of, there was a recent case that came to the forefront that there was a disagreement between Bill and the attorney. And in that case, there was confusion because of interpretation of the zoning ordinance. And it could have been interpreted two different ways, legitimately. And it's a case where the ordinance really has to be cleared up. And I did in fact send an email to Meg, and as part of the code revision, and said this is one of the things that we need to clear up. And she agreed with that, but I'm not sure where that stands at the present time.
Yeah.
Okay.
We should.
So you're talking, so construction fence, so you're saying, so every fence constructed or erected in the village shall, in 120, I'm sorry, 1268.28 fences, that there's, you said there's discrepancies within that
Yeah, and,
municipal code? Okay.
right, I don't have the specific sections here, but section 126404, I just have a email here that I wrote back in 2024.
Okay.
It's in my file. And 126406.
Okay.
So, this goes beyond, of course, the R3 district. There's some things that just need to be cleared up. And it would make the zoning board of appeals activity much easier if the ordinance was clear.
What is the ordinance number? Did you say 1268?
No, 126406, 126404. I think those is where the fence is, in that general vicinity.
Most of that's non-conforming.
Oh, wait, 1268.28. Oh, yeah, that's right, that's, we get into the non-conforming issue too with the fences.
Well, yeah, 126406 talks about alterations, repairs, and
Yeah,
maintenance.
so you have to coordinate these two things.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So 1268.28 and 1268 and 12, the other section that I mentioned, 1264.04 and 1264.06 sort of mesh together. And they have to be in sync or else the ZBA's work is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, they're not in sync.
And that's because the fences are being treated, for the alterations, repairs, and maintenance, the fences are being treated as structures, not as buildings, not structures. Is that what you're saying?
Right, that, I think in one sense, they were being referred to in the language, in the non-conforming language, as buildings. In another sense, they were being referred to as structures. There's three different subsections that are applicable, and they're all conflicting.
Okay. So
So it's,
this looks like a topic we need to discuss separately with
Yeah,
regards
it
to bringing
is
those
sort of.
together.
I mean, the issues
sort of a
exist in
separate
R3,
issue, but
they're
it's
also global.
related.
Right. So maybe we should break out, maybe we should, one idea is to consider R3 if there's anything we want to change for fences in R3 right now. And then when we go to, consider the R3 in a global fix with regards to what you're raising right now. So, so,
Keep a notepad, right? So we can come back to it.
I've got all the notes.
All right, here.
but does that make sense? So we can close out the R3 discussion portion, and then we just make sure that in our discussion for a global fix, we consider anything else, anything that might affect R3 in that secondary discussion? Does that?
Sounds right?
Okay.
In the
help us
R3
move
discussion,
along.
I passed out a letter tonight, regulations regarding fences is the title. Barry Roberts, as many of you know, is the HDC chairman, suggested that I look at Northville, and I also looked at Plymouth, because they're both historic communities. They have neighborhoods like, I left it at each of your places.
It might be.
Oh, it was in a different set.
And, it's a two-page letter.
Yep.
Jeremy and I can share if that's all right, if you don't mind.
They have neighborhoods just like the R3 neighborhood, so he said, why don't you look at their ordinances and see how they compare to Franklin's, and so I did that, and it was sort of interesting because,
Can I share with you?
what it showed is, in terms of height, fences to enclosed properties in Franklin, as you know, may not exceed 4 feet in both of those communities. They may go up to 6.5 feet. So they're much less restrictive than Franklin is for the fences that go around the perimeter of the property.
Could they then have dissimilar heights? Because don't we have a requirement that has to be the same along an entire side? So could your fence change heights as well?
Yeah, well, let me go through it. So in Northville, no fence or wall may be erected ahead of the front of the building line. So in the front yard, no fence, basically. In the side yard, up to 10 feet behind the front face of the building, 6.5 foot high fence or wall is permitted. If you're closer than 10 feet to the front face of the house, a 4 foot high fence is permitted. So basically, if you're looking at the front of the house, you can go with a 4 foot fence up to 10 feet back, and then you can go up to a 6.5 foot fence back further. And then in the rear yard, you can have a 6.5 foot fence. And then other pertinent regulations in Northville, all fences have to be on the lot line, which was sort of surprising to me. That's a mandatory requirement. And fence posts and finials can extend 6 inches higher than the 6.5 feet. So
really
you're up to 7 feet.
But that's the That's the post though, not,
That's just the post to
Yeah.
the finial, right. And then residents are encouraged, but it's not mandatory to use ornamental materials such as the ones that I've listed there. Then in Plymouth, fences and walls within the required front yard have to be decorative style, not to exceed 30 inches in height, I mean. And then I've explained what they define as decorative fence. In the side or rear yard, they can go up to 6.5 feet in height. So they don't even have the step up from 4 to 6.5. You can go immediately in the side yard to 6.5 feet. And in the rear yard, it's 6.5 feet.
and these can be, they say walls and fences, which means that they could be completely screening.
Yeah,
That's right,
Yeah, they don't even have the
that's right,
allowance for the diffusion.
right.
Is Plymouth on the property line, or what was the property line?
They don't say anything about that in Plymouth's ordinance. They say that fences and walls shall be constructed with the finished side exposed to the neighboring properties. They also say fence posts and finials may extend up to 6 inches above the permitted fence height. And they have a few other less interesting regulations, but those are the key provisions that I think.
Why are we so unique then? Is it because of the way that the village was kind
Yeah, I
of
think
organically
so.
grown?
Every community, you know, they want.
how much older is Franklin than Northville and Plymouth?
They're not historic.
Hold on, let Chris finish his
Oh.
statements, please.
They're, every committee, you know, wants their own look. And I said this
I guess.
at the HDC, you know, they asked the question, well, what are other communities have? And my answer was, it ranges from one end to the other.
They argue, you said. That's why I would love to be present at an argument, because you would learn a lot, right? You
Right,
would-
you would. It really depends on the look that you want to achieve for your own community.
Right, and I
And a
would,
lot of communities
Sorry.
don't permit any fences in residential
Yeah.
communities.
I would say that they're unique in many ways, just
Mm-hmm.
from my experience of building many fences over my life. Theirs are a little bit, tall fences are rare.
So the question then is, okay, given what we've seen they're doing, I don't feel like we need to follow suit, but I'm open to discussion on that. That's my opinion. I feel like our village has maintained these characteristics and requirements, especially for the R3 district, for quite a few number of years. And so does it warrant a change for us to change how we consider the R3? Because we have a screening requirement and we have a fence requirement, and clearly their fence requirement and screening requirement are not unique, are not dissimilar, and they're the same type of ordinance.
Right.
So discussion point, do we see a need to change what we're doing?
I think it goes to what the historic district says.
Okay.
I don't think we have anything else to say until they get.
What was
feedback.
your comment?
Just, it goes up to the historic district. I mean, I don't think we can really
Right.
say much. We have ideas, but I would leave it up to them because they're the experts in that district.
In terms of the historical component, right?
Right, and we want to maintain that, so I would just
Right.
defer to whatever they
Okay.
say.
So I guess I would have a comment. And the one thing that I thought about is this, when you have two fences that cannot be on a property line, you do get that alley. You get that, what's kind of an undesirable alley in between. And, I'm not clear in my head whether allowing it to be, because if you put them out of the property line, then, one neighbor puts it on the property line, then the next one can't quite get it on the property line, but you're basically could have two fences that are right on top of each other, right next to each other. I'm not sure what is, what is,
Do we have any situations like that where we have back-to-back?
sure, yeah, I get it right on Carroll, right, other side of the post office, the original post office that's on Kelvin.
Right.
And then you have so between that original post office and the little, I guess now it's like a lavender color, I think you got that.
Well, the other scenario is, our house is an example, work with your neighbor and have your fence on the property line, because we went to zoning, got a variance because we both work together.
Remember?
We both work together and we
Right.
have one shared wall that is on our property line. That's being a good neighbor.
Yeah,
And a shared cost.
Yeah, we shared we actually got it,
Right.
because we use the same guy, for both our yards. He gave us like a 25% discount for both of us.
yeah, I guess it's hard to get rid of the alley.
Yeah, I mean, I like what you brought up, because I think it is weird you have two fences there. When I was scrolling through the fence ordinances, it does say something about how you can go jointly, neighbors, and get the permit to do it, so you both own the fence, so that's on record. But, I mean, the only fences you can't put on property line now would be 6-foot fences. I mean, anyone can put a 4-foot fence on the property line
Is that
right
the
now.
case?
That's, yes.
Yeah, so that's not really,
Absolutely.
it's only a 6-foot fence can't be there at this point, so that's really the only difference.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, no.
It's just the requirement that you have to put it on the property
That's-
line, and I don't know anyone that would put their fence not on their property line, unless it was a 6-foot fence, they weren't allowed to do it,
Right.
Yeah.
because they're giving away your property essentially, so, I don't know.
Well, unless it's prohibited.
You know, if it's a
But it's not.
matter, I just feel like there's already
Sounded more-
regulations in place. If it's a matter of health and safety, if a fence is in such disreputable condition, I mean, that's gonna fall under our blight or
It's a
under
nuisance, right.
fire code or some kind of a nuisance. So it's covered under that.
Okay, so what I'm understanding is that we go to HDC with the proposal to what? To ask them, that we think that the current fence requirements and how they're set up in the downtown are appropriate. Do you feel a need to change them? If so, what are the changes that we should make to the ordinance with regards to the historic district? Is that really what we're saying to them?
We're requesting a recommendation from the historic district on how they would like us to proceed with the R3 district.
Okay. And then do we want to ask them also whether or not we would want them to try encourage neighbors to share property line fences from a safety standpoint, or is that not part of the discussion? That's between neighbors, really?
That's really between neighbors. We can't that's a community event they should hold that encourages neighbors to work together, not something we can
Well,
enforce at
The only
all.
thing I will tell you about that, the only implication of that is, it's great when neighbors get along and when neighbors are continuing to live in the houses. If a neighbor decides to sell their house under Michigan disclosure law, there's a question that says, are there any features that are owned in common?
Yep.
And you would then have to disclose it, and it's likely that there would be some discussion about that. So, yeah, that would be the place where it
Okay.
would come up, and that it may be a hindrance to closing.
Okay, so I don't know if we need to make a motion since we're just still in conversation about this.
I want to ask, so are we breaking up the R3 discussion that we have on our agenda into fences and then?
Yeah, it's a sub point, I guess.
Okay. I have no more conditions on this subpoint then. Or more discussion, I mean.
Pete?
So your motion would be something along the lines of, we'll keep it the way it is for fencing and talk to the Historic Society, I guess.
District.
That's right, the,
Commission,
Gary
yeah.
Roberts and his crew at the HDC, yes.
I kept on calling them Historic Society.
Don't do that, yes.
They don't appreciate it.
It's a different thing, but,
Other grades are good.
so I know, Gary had mentioned, okay, you've got you've got dissimilar fences on the same lot. You know, we could ask him that specific question. I don't know that we have a whole lot that addresses dissimilar fences.
But they can address that when someone goes to make a change to their fence.
Yeah, it's aesthetic. It's largely
And,
aesthetic.
and they
yeah.
dictate aesthetics in the downtown.
That's right. And I guess the, you know, because Chris, you didn't actually make suggestions on our fencing. You would ask some questions,
Right.
whereas with the setbacks, you did make some suggestions. Because I'm sure it would be nice to go to them and say, here's, how do you feel about this specific question? But, you know, they could address the general topics, you know, height, and
Materials.
And, you know, the aesthetics they already handle, and we address it a lot in our fence ordinance. I think it's already covered largely.
Well, I think it could be more explicit, like, actually, Northville and Plymouth do a better job.
Pictures and stuff and more detail.
Yeah, more detail.
Yeah, it can be helpful.
Well, I mean, it'll be the second round of fencing ordinance that I've had on since I've been on planning, which I'm happy to do because we were able to improve things last time around. So,
But I guess the, you know, the bigger issue, because between historic and between zoning, if we were to keep everything the same, it does, you know, I guess this is my opinion in favor of, or at least being receptive to the idea that we have a pretty good fence ordinance. But there are clearly cases where you might want to have exceptions. And that zoning and historic district commission can take care of those things, yeah.
I
So
mean,
if-
there's rules for height, there's rules for opacity, there's rules for materials.
Yeah, and the screening issue, maybe, I guess it would benefit me if I had a little refresher on when we allow screening. When is-
there's rules on the screening already, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, that's why I was hoping for a refresher, but, because, you know, well, I
It's like
want
a
to,
special
you
use, like a
can't,
pool, a patio,
Right, it's too,
things like that.
that's right.
can't be in the front yard,
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
correct. It's,
can't be on the property line, I think certain things like that. So as long as we don't have any screening-related things, because I guess that's one of the topics is, you know, how intrusive screening is and how permissive are you on screening, but even that could be almost entirely dealt with in,
it's not
historic
supposed to
and-
be in a required setback area, so those are the
should be
boundaries.
pretty close to the house.
Correct. It's
Yeah,
supposed
yeah.
to be, privacy screen is supposed to be there to enclose a specific area like a patio or
Yeah.
something of that nature.
So-
A pool is something completely different. That's regulated by the building code. So,
So this leads me to a second point real quick, actually. So with historic district, then we do need them to chime in on any recommendations on screening, because that is a different topic, but it is, people are treating screening like fencing as well.
No, it's,
They're not,
They're
huh?
not doing it right, yeah.
aren't they the same?
It's not under the same section of the,
It's all fencing.
well, moving forward, yeah, it's under the same section, but moving forward, they have in the past as the evidence of the 6 non-conforming situations that we have in the R3 district.
They're
Those are
being
all-
used the same as a fence.
Right,
but they're
but
all,
moving forward, you wouldn't allow something like that to happen again. Hopefully.
right. Because it's prohibited now, but if they want to make an appeal, or if then they could make an appeal. Yeah.
Okay, so for right now, it's just a matter of enforcement, but we'll talk to historic district if we need to make changes. And I can go to that meeting. Anyone else would like to join me on that meeting?
Yeah.
Volunteers, Pete?
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah,
Next meeting,
the
you
more,
said
the more the merrier.
First week of August,
Yes, first Wednesday of August.
Monday.
first Monday.
Or Is it Monday?
Okay.
I think you're right,
I'm
it's
gonna
Monday.
say I can't do that right now.
You're gonna miss out.
I'm encouraging myself to go. I will let you
Yeah.
know if I can,
We'll try.
because I am
I'll
also.
look it up
agree
real
with
quick.
It's the fourth.
that. If it's the first Monday, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It is the 6th of August, Historic District.
Wednesday.
Yep, it's,
Yeah, first Wednesday, okay.
yep,
Okay.
7 PM here.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. I just looked at,
For all the ones.
I'm not gonna take time, just wanted to
Sure.
correct the record. There's 5 fences now conforming on that, because the one that between our property and neighbors, then
It's 4.
legally built, in April. So, it's all post.
can you say, I'm sorry,
Oh, I'm sorry,
So I just want to correct the record. There's now 5 left, non-conforming,
okay?
because the fence between our property and the neighbors was completely rebuilt. It's not a repair. All posts, all panels were replaced in April,
But
which
it's
did.
still, it's not still considered legally non-conforming, right? Or
No, it lost its status as soon as all the posts and panels were removed and the new one were put in.
Well,
So-
it would still be considered non-conforming because it doesn't comply with the current regulations.
But it did not go through approvals. It did
It's
not
not
get a
legally
permit.
non-conforming.
It's illegal
Right.
now,
It's illegal.
completely.
It's
It
just
did,
it's non-conforming, but it's not legally.
it did
It's
not go
not
through HDC.
Grandfathered.
It's from the cheap stockade material from Home Depot. It's already deteriorating.
so it's still 6. I mean, it doesn't
still a
change the
fence
nu-
there.
It's still a
Well,
fence.
yeah. The only thing, one more thing, because this is where I'm coming and it's important, if you allow on property line, like other properties, and that's why this, so we will have only 18 inches between the fence and our side of the house. We already cannot do certain
Right.
stuff, so you know that. And that's why our ordinances were written keeping in mind in our historic district, lots are so irregular in different property line and everything. So I think number 7 at least in the fence ordinances, obstruction of use of adjoining property should be left there for built-in and to make done determinations.
Right, and that's why they
Or
would have,
ZBA, you know, that's why in our case, ZBA made a decision 3 times. There should have been setback, bigger even, because of how close it's to our house.
right, and that's where neighbors, that's where, if you do have if you have it on your property line, that needs to be a joint agreement with the neighbors, and otherwise a setback is required, right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, all right, so we'll move on from the subtopic of fences unless there's other comments about fencing for the R3 district?
No, sir.
Okay, so next subtopic would be of R3 is setbacks for structures. And this is where I think we have a lot more to consider, because in this case, we have a larger, or a more significant portion of our neighbors that are legally non-conforming or non-conforming.
Yep.
How did my numbering get all messed up? So,
I mean, is that something though that we should also just wait until we talk to the historic district about? I mean,
we did mention it to them. I'm not sure what we're trying to get from them exactly just
I mean,
yet.
do they want 5 feet versus 10 feet?
Yeah.
We can ask this.
That's basically a specific question, yeah.
And,
Is
you know,
that something they want to do or not?
they're not prepared to answer because they don't even know what you're talking about. You know, so if we were to ask them the question right now, you know, the setback is 10 feet, and combined of 25 feet, right? So I think if they were asked that pointed question, it would help get the ball rolling.
Right, but we need to have that conversation with them, and then
The
they,
conversation would be at the
Yeah.
next meeting, and then they would have a meeting after they get the information the following month. We would not be able to even get an answer until probably October.
Well,
Which is, it's fine, but that's what we need.
Unless they
Right.
answer the question right then and there, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But in terms of fairness, they can review our materials as well, because I'm assuming they haven't been sent our findings from Chris.
Yeah.
what we're dealing with.
I mean, that's
We're
a good-
essentially dragging them into our responsibility, but we're dragging them into it because we want
It's a good.
more information.
It's a good point, and I don't know, Stuart and Chris, whether you want to, here are the questions, here are the direct questions that we're dealing with. I think your suggestion, or your thoughts, I guess they were recommendations, would be good ones to put to them specifically,
Right,
nicely isolated, so they're not looking at too much information, just to be able to.
right, I don't know whether you want to just deal with fences the next.
Yeah,
meeting
let's-
with
I think let's deal with fences with HGC this next time, and then,
Deal with setbacks the meeting after that.
is it, do we feel an urgency?
It depends, I think setbacks is the easier question. Do you want to do the easy one first or the hard one first?
I thought
That's the
setbacks was
question.
harder.
I thought setbacks was harder.
I think setbacks is.
But, I mean, to me, it's like, the sooner you can get them thinking about it,
Yeah.
try and get
Alright.
some feedback, the better.
Then so what's the question for, we can ask them both questions and we can treat them separately and they can address whichever one they choose to
Sure.
during that meeting, or both, right? So let's,
I
I don't,
think they're looking for direction from you.
all right, so then let's talk about it really quickly. What are we looking to propose from them, to them, that we're doing for the setbacks then? So we're looking at moving it to 5 feet?
A reduction of 5 feet in the side and rear setback for detached garages.
Do we still want 20 total? Because then you'd have to have 15 on the other side.
Oh, you're
25.
talking for the residents. He's talking about the garage.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was. That was one of your suggestions. Sorry.
We're getting there,
I
guys.
think, why don't we talk about the residences first, since that's the first thing in my letter.
Sure.
I hate to ask, but now we're we making another subsection, one for garages, one's for structures,
I think
I think
that's a
setback.
good,
on the setbacks?
I don't know, what's your,
I personally don't see the need for the 25, or the,
Combined.
combined.
Yeah.
If it's
Yeah.
good enough to have 10 on one side, why do you need 15 on the other?
Right.
I wouldn't disagree.
Yeah.
So the recommendation would then, for side setbacks, it would be just a minimum of 5,
10,
I'm sorry, minimum of 10
10 on each side,
on each side, sorry, yes.
yeah.
And then, okay,
And then it's just detached structures, mostly garages.
Right,
Yeah, because you're not allowed to have separate dwelling structures, so I mean,
You can't have like a ADU or anything.
no.
not yet.
mother-in-law suite.
Yeah, I mean, the combined, what it does, it just gives you a more spaced out feel. If you're crunched up on one side, then, it does, I'm just being the devil's advocate. That's why you would want it combined of 25. It does give you a little more overall space.
Like a sense of space. is what
Yeah,
you're saying.
I mean, it's, like, all right, you could go Bigfoot, right? And you can say lot to lot, right? You can put giant houses down there. And so I don't think we want that. I think what we have is pretty good.
I hate to go backwards, but the reason why the recommendation came for the setbacks came to us was there was a complaint that there's not enough, or is there too much setback?
No, the 75% do not comply with the 10-foot minimum setback requirement.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
And nonconformities, so that was another question.
But even with the nonconformity of the setback and the end of the analysis specifically for setbacks, McKenna specifically has pointed out, we do not recommend any revisions for the minimum width requirements because we do not think it'd be beneficial for the property owners.
Right,
So that is the big thing. The research has been done, it has been reviewed, and it has been vetted. And then the recommendation is no change. Still, do we want to bog down the HDC with a question on setbacks when we're more concerned about fences?
No, we're going to ask them for all of them, yeah.
Of all of it, yes, but I'm saying, like, do we need to
It's just a 25-foot question.
Yeah.
That's- And then it's 5 feet for the other one. if we want.
Yeah.
And then the other one is this, the rear yard setback, a reduction of from 40 feet to 30 feet.
Oh, yeah.
And what's the 5-foot one reduction?
5 foot is for the
Garage.
The garages, all right, separate from structures. But what I took away, Paul, from what you
Well-
just said,
It's an accessory building, so the garage is an accessory building, so it's a-
I'm sorry, Pete, yes?
but we're calling it a garage.
Detached accessory garage setback.
it's still an accessory building is how we put in our code, so
Right.
garage is what they tend to use them for.
This is true.
Yeah.
So, Paul, what I took away from your comments was the non-conforming component of this. You know, why are we reviewing this right now? And, you know, I know, Chris, you had said, you know, non-conformities are undesirable. In general, you don't want them. So I was thinking about if that's true or not. And I guess it is sort of a question, you know, because that's also what historic character can be
A lot of
sometimes.
it's non-conforming.
With that?
A lot of it is non-conforming.
Right, right. And, you know, obviously, safety, we'd have to think about safety. But I don't know that, you know, specifically that nonconformity, I guess, maybe, Chris, could you elaborate on why it is undesirable in a historic district to have nonconformity? Is it mostly safety? What are your thoughts?
No, the non-conforming aspect really relates to your zoning ordinance. You have a lot of non-conformities, like with garages,
Sure,
where 75% are non-conformity. You have to question whether your ordinance is really, what's the purpose of having a 10-foot setback?
Right. Well-
If 75% of your,
and I guess the
Structures.
answer would be that nowadays, we don't do it that way as much anymore. We like more space. But 150 years ago, they weren't thinking about
Well,
that.
and particularly with garages or accessory buildings, you have to think, what's the purpose of having a 10-foot setback? It's just wasted space, really, on the side and the rear of the garage. You know, and you can
People pile
reduce
wood
that.
there, or they put their ladder against it, or
Right.
Which could be awfully nice for some people, I guess, but it does seem like a lot of it is aesthetic.
Here's a more practical reason.
Right,
Insurance companies usually would frown upon nonconformities if they find out about them.
Did you look at the requirements for Northville and Plymouth regarding accessory dwellings?
No, I didn't.
Okay. I was wondering if they're 5 or if they're on the property line and you maintain your fire resistance or what they might do.
I
Based on
can
my
look into that, but
is that in our, is that addressed anywhere? ADUs, accessory dwelling units?
Well,
No, he
but
meant-
it's a
No,
detached
he meant
accessory. I meant
accessory.
accessory garage, whatever they're called.
Oh,
Just, yeah,
accessory buildings.
accessory
I
building.
don't think we're talking about accessory dwelling units, are we?
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
anyways,
think there are
Yeah,
any
I got
in
the
there.
thing.
Little
Yeah,
tiny home on
accessory
there.
garages.
Not in the historic.
I guess the other question I have is that we have all these that don't conform with the 10-foot. Would they conform at 5 or would they still be non-conforming at 5?
I think they would conform at 5.
Yeah, I think you said.
There
something
would
about
certainly
that.
be more that would conform at 5.
Okay.
Like it brings 70% of them into compliance or something. I thought you
Yeah.
said something about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because you still have, 26059, they have a deficiency of 7 feet on the south side of German Mill Road, and then 26023 is a deficiency, I mean, there's 0 left setback, right? So the ones that are 0 that are on the property line, those obviously would not come into conformance.
Right.
And there's one that's like 4 foot, so it's deficient by 6, that would also still stay deficient, but we would capture the majority of them. And then in those cases, it would make sense for them to go to zoning board of appeals, because now we've got a conformal number that's 70% of the homes are in compliance now. And so instead of having everyone be an exception, you're now the exception
Right.
But to me, that doesn't, I don't know.
We don't want accessory buildings on the property line though,
On a property line,
like this one here.
Well, that
What is
definitely
I can't read it either way.
would be in
Well,
conflict
that's-
with built-in and,
Left setback is 0, so you do have it on the property.
Right, that's right.
I mean, it would only be in conflict if it wasn't fire resistant, correct?
yeah, they're not going to
Yeah,
fire
yeah.
resist
I don't know if you could have fire resistant,
Unless
that would be
they're
code for
parking
historic.
a
that
Rolls
was
Royce in it.
brick, I guess.
Okay, so my direction from planning for me is, and those that go with me to HTC, is to, for accessory buildings and for setbacks, commonize the 10-foot minimum on left and right side rather than a total, the 25-foot rule. And then for reduction to 5 feet of the side and rear setback for detached garages. And then the rear yard, going from 40 to 30 feet. 30,
So it's those really 4 things
yeah.
that we'd love to present to them and get their opinion on, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And we could go ahead and draft, Heather, we can draft an email, I can draft an email and to send to them, about these to give it, to put in their packet ahead of time so they can review it.
Thank you.
So, okay. All right, and they'll just be highlighting from his memo from this meeting. Any other discussions with regards to the R3 district? We're not really making motions, we're not making a ruling on anything. So if there's no other comments, we can move to new business.
Well, I guess I would ask
sorry.
about zoning Board of Appeals. Do we, boy, since we have Linda here and,
Yeah.
you know, Quincy's been experienced on it as well. But do we want to do something similar with ZBA?
Probably.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Someone's got to end with that.
Yep.
Because of, yeah, I guess they are affected by it, so, you know, it's like,
Well, the term of the effective is it's enforcement of what we decide. It's not, they
Right.
make the decisions. It's,
But
they
I
make
mean,
the decisions
because I
based
do
on what
feel
we
like
write.
especially in the historic district, that there are so many idiosyncrasies and special circumstances
Mm-hmm.
that, ZBA is a really important part of it, so.
So having been on ZBA and liaison, and currently liaison for ZBA, what is ZBA's recommendation for HDC
Yeah.
zonings? What you said
Do
last
we,
month?
do we frustrate you because of our vague and obtuse?
No, I mean,
No.
it's,
You recommend, but you-
honestly, it all depends on what comes in front of us. I mean,
Yeah.
we haven't heard anything related to that district in a very long time.
But when it does, what's your recommendation to the individual?
Our recommendation is to the rule of the regulation,
But go to HDC
whatever
first
is in
though, right?
place.
They go, because
They
it-
have to go to HDC first.
that's
before-
how we
They
have
would have to,
historically
or,
done it.
yeah, they would have to go. It certainly helps us weigh our decision more if we know that they've been to HDC. So,
If
How
if
about-
HGC approves it and sends it to zoning, then zoning has a clearer picture of how to
Right.
enforce the ordinance, and it's usually in the spirit of the law. It is more to the letter, but it can be adjusted to the spirit.
right.
I mean, I think the only major issue regarding ordinances that I encountered actually was still in the historic district, and it was fences, and it was what is replace versus repair.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, it did happen outside, but it also happened in the historic district, and it's unclear.
And I would wonder then if the Historic District Commission could offer some guidelines for you guys too. I'd be curious to know what they are. Like if you came upon a fence that's unusual, it's really that historical component, If we know that that fence is historically, it's a vintage fence. I would hope that zoning would consider that.
Well, but Pete, it depends on how much of it really is vintage.
Right,
You know,
fences
the
don't
rule
last.
of thumb is, are you repairing it or are you replacing it? And-
I would propose for this part of the discussion that we make it new business for our next meeting to discuss, and talk about, and mention to council that this is we consider this to be a priority as far as what is repair versus replace, and how do we make it easier for people to understand what that means. Trustee Sally, is that okay? We can bring that question to council. Would that conflict with what you're considering priorities for planning? Or do you think council would have a concern with us addressing, helping to clarify what repair versus replace is for fences or?
No, I don't see that being an issue. Again, I think the more clarity that we can bring to our ordinances, the better.
Okay. All right. So, and that, I think at that point, we can add it to new business for our next meeting. Chris, if you have some examples from other communities, and please
Yeah.
make recommendations for Chris, with regards to, if I'm missing something, please make a recommendation with regards to repair versus replace. How do other communities, address this? And, is it standards based upon the type of, situation, as in electrical versus, a home burned down versus fences versus, is it strictly, implementation different, is there a difference in implementation situation, like a fence, or is it a general rule of thumb for across the board for buildings, for any structure?
Because I think the one that's really kind of on the fence, pardon the pun, is that like if you're replacing the exact same fence, you're taking out the entire existing fence, but you're replacing it with something that is the exact same footprint.
Right.
It has the same style, has everything. That's the one that is,
Yeah, but that's
Question.
actually come up, and if
It
it
has,
is an
and we granted the-
existing non-conforming use, then if you're taking out what's there, you cannot put it back in without getting a variance.
Right, so
Yes.
that's where we need, I'd like
Yeah.
better clarity on that.
I think if you're putting in a completely different style fence, like a picket fence to a stockade fence, that's
That's a-
obviously
No,
not repair.
Even
replace.
if it's the same, if you're taking
But
it
yeah.
out, we had this several years ago, a house right off of 13 Mile, and they came in front of zoning and.
Yeah, well, we had the
Yeah,
one
they-
over on, what's the one around the corner from your house?
Briarcliff.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we just did that one
right.
with the horse fence.
But I think but we're the body to make a recommendation to council on how to deal
But
with
Just make
those
it easier
situations.
for Bill.
Yeah.
So we can point to things.
Yeah.
Because people think that they're just repairing it. And it's easier, I think it'd be easier for Bill to be like, if you're replacing more than 50%, you're not repairing it, you're replacing it, you have to do that. I think it would just be easier for people to make that connection, even though to us. it makes sense.
Linda, are there situations that you've seen where let's bring this up next month. Let's formulate our ideas. We can talk about it more in detail, especially after Chris has a chance to do some review on some other communities. But please email out, or not email out, but like think about, write down what we're going to talk about on this topic, and we can discuss it next month. I think that we're going to have a pretty good discussion about it. Okay. We'll move on to new business then. So this is our first reading and discussion with regards to regulations. I mentioned briefly last month, but this is the first time we're able to address the regulations to control blight/nuisance abatement. There are specific legal requirements for blight, but the ones that affect us mostly in our village and our community for blight are situations where they've been consistently in violation of village ordinance. They've been referred to as in violation over and over again, then that meets the qualification for blight. So the question, what that means though, is that we've failed as a village to address our concerns with that homeowner multiple times prior to actually being able to classify that situation as a blight, which means that we're not addressing it. We have not addressed it to the point, and the homeowner has not addressed it to the point where a change has happened, and therefore it gets reclassified into a situation where we don't want associated blight with our village. So that's why we're looking into nuisances, because this is how we're going to, I think this is the way that we can address how to identify this. So Chris, would you mind going through your memo for us, please?
Sure. It's dated June 21st. That's the letter that I'm going to go through. First of all, I go through some terminology and definitions, talking about the difference between blight mitigation, and most communities really refer to it as nuisance abatement. And I give a definition of what most communities, or a lot of communities, define as nuisance. And then I, on the bottom of page 1, talk about the type of nuisances that are regulated in Franklin's Code of Ordinances, which is not a very comprehensive list, to be honest. In chapter 648, it deals with littering, and which is a pretty comprehensive chapter. Although it prohibits littering, it generally places the responsibility on the property owners to clean up the litter. Chapter 662 deals with offenses related to property. This chapter deals solely with defacing public property. Section 666.02, this section is, in my opinion, totally inadequate. It deals with radios, phonographs, and musical instruments, and has no standards whatsoever. So I don't think it's really enforceable. Chapter 1478 deals with dangerous buildings, which sets forth procedures for dealing with dangerous buildings. 1479 deals with weed and grass growth control, and I talk about that later in my letter. And then 1480 adopts the International Property Maintenance Code, which is a sort of a small booklet that is put out by the, see if I can remember the name of it. Can't remember the name of the organization, but it's the same organization that puts out the building code. And that's a pretty good property maintenance code. It deals primarily with the interior maintenance of properties in the village. So I looked at a number of communities. I'm looking at page 2 of my letter now to see what they have in terms of nuisance abatement ordinances, and found that most of them are much more comprehensive than Franklin's. And on the page 2, I have a list, I think, of about 25 issues, nuisance issues, that are commonly addressed in other communities. And I don't know if you want to go through each of these or not. I think you probably had an opportunity to read through them. They deal with everything from inoperable junk and abandoned motor vehicles to litter, to accumulation of rubbish and garbage, to storage of building materials, dealing with noise, alarm systems. There's one that deals with construction site maintenance. Probably the best one that has standards in that regard is Birmingham, that deals with how contractors maintain construction sites. So there's about 20 to 25 listed here, and you can we can go through them, and you can see which ones you think are most appropriate for the village of Franklin. The ones that are at the top of the list are the ones that are most common. The ones that are at the bottom of the list, like the one that's last, is fertilizer. that's probably the least common one, but some communities do have fertilizer concerned about use of fertilizer and how it affects the waterways.
Shouldn't we be worried about that? I mean, we're all on wells too here, so
Right,
you're saying the amount of fertilizer that you can put onto your lawn?
that's right,
We should definitely look at that.
that's right.
Well, especially we're also River Rouge watershed too.
That too,
Yeah.
I mean, but it's like, that's what I don't understand, it's
I say,
like putting all this fertilizer on our grasses and we're drinking the water.
I think we did have a discussion somewhere when we were bringing up the turf, the AstroTurf discussion. We talked about the hazardous materials fertilizer for the waterways. So I think we can reference that for that specific.
And then at the bottom of page 3, I deal with noxious weeds and grass growth. Chapter 1479 deals with weed and grass growth. That seems to be an issue of particular interest. Generally, the ordinance indicates that weeds and grass must not be allowed to grow taller than 8 inches above ground level if one's property is in any of the following locations: within a platted subdivision or single-family residential condominium, within 100 feet of a platted subdivision or single-family residential condominium, or within 100 feet of any public street or road. So those are the situations in which you have to maintain your lawn within 8 inches. And then I describe the enforcement procedures on the top of page 4. They follow very closely Michigan Public Act 359 of 1941, which is the Noxious Weeds Act. And you'll find that a lot of communities follow the procedures in the Noxious Weed Act. Interestingly, the Noxious Weeds Act does not deal with lawn grass. So it only deals with noxious weeds, and it has a list of noxious weeds, which are the same ones that are listed in our ordinance. And although Franklin's ordinance also talks about exotic invasive plant species and native species, both of which could be better defined. They're not very well defined in the ordinance. So in terms of next steps, the Planning Commission needs to decide whether it wants a more comprehensive nuisance abatement ordinance. I think it would be pretty straightforward to put one together because a lot of the work's already been done by other communities. I think there's a lot of ambiguities that need to be taken care of in the weed and grass growth control ordinance, chapter 1479 at minimum. And I think that the procedures for enforcement can be streamlined in that ordinance. Then there's a second letter that was passed out based on some additional information that Stuart passed on to me about rain gardens, which I guess are a concern of some folks here in the village. These could fall into a nuisance category depending on your perspective. The village code, particularly chapter 1229, stormwater management, actually promotes the use of rain gardens and what they call vegetative swales as stormwater best management practices. Interestingly, they don't have a definition of either a rain garden or a vegetative swale. And so I provided a definition for both of these here in my letter. There's no definition in the ordinance, in the code of ordinances anywhere for a rain garden or vegetative swale. But I note that if designed and maintained properly, rain gardens and vegetative swales can have a positive attributes, capturing, slowing, and filtering stormwater runoff before it enters the Rouge River. So that's the positive side. And rain gardens in particular can actually look fairly attractive if they're planted with wildflowers, the right kind of plant material. They are, however, an informal landscape design element. And informal is the key word there. So if they're not maintained, they can quickly appear unkempt, and neighbors who are used to or are more appreciative of a more formal landscaping design with neatly trimmed shrubs and edged flower beds are probably not going to be in favor of rain gardens and vegetative swales, especially if they're not maintained properly. In terms of the village code, it provides no guidance on how to address this conflict. Chapter 1229 promotes the widespread use of rain gardens and vegetative swales. But as I said, they don't even define what a rain garden or vegetative swale is. And then section 1268.34 addresses landscaping, but it deals only with off-street parking requirements and green belts. And it also does not mention rain gardens or vegetative swales. So I'm not certain that it's possible to completely resolve the conflict between people who desire a more formal landscape versus those who wish to install rain gardens or vegetative swales. However, I think that the city code could be enhanced to somewhat deal with this conflict. First of all, I think the landscaping requirements in section 1268.34 could be improved with more comprehensive set of landscaping requirements. At minimum, this section should address the following aspects of rain gardens and vegetative swales: the locations where such features are appropriate or inappropriate, design standards including the types of soils, drainage, and appropriate plant material, and the maintenance responsibilities. And then revise chapter 1229 to refer to the requirements for rain gardens and vegetative swales in the previous section that I just mentioned, and revise section 1240.08, the definitions section, to include definitions of rain garden and vegetative swales. So that concludes my recommendations.
So I don't mean to spring this as well, but pertinent to this discussion though is section 1268.14, which is parking and storage of vehicles and equipment in residential areas, because that can also be considered a nuisance if and I apologize, Chris, for not mentioning this previously to you, but for example, in situations where you have vehicles that are not under permit use, meaning you're not actively doing construction on the on site, under permit from the village, that people are storing vehicles for commercial use on their property. It's allowed to have commercial vehicles on your property according to the ordinance, as long as they're in an enclosed location like a garage or something like that. But this also covers recreational vehicles. For example, storage and parking of recreational vehicles on a lot or parcel is prohibited except as follows. Any recreational vehicle may be parked on a driveway for the purpose of loading and unloading for a total of not more than 6 days during one calendar month. So, I mean, these are the types of, also would be considered a nuisance, is if you have vehicles in addition to the vehicles you had mentioned previously, improper, and to the inoperable junk or abandoned motor vehicles, I think that this falls under the same.
What chapter was that?
It is 1268.14.
Okay.
And that should include, skidsters and, load lifters and things that aren't my neighbor's building a massive home across the street from me, but it's actively under construction, so having a bulldozer on their property to move 20-foot high, 30-foot high dirt mounds makes a lot of sense for them to not move it every day off the property.
Right.
But they're actively under a permit working, so. But if in situations where it's being stored on a property is allowed, as long as it's in an enclosure yeah,
What about dumpsters?
well, that would be,
That would be the same,
We-
There's-
permit.
it doesn't fall under the
there's one
same,
house near us that's had the same dumpster parked out there for 3 years now.
Are they getting their permits redone every month?
I do not know the answer to that.
if it's under
But-
permit.
Unfortunately, if they're getting their permits redone every month, it's okay.
And those pods.
I didn't notice one for trailers, because a lot of people I see people leaving trailers out for.
Are you talking about the moving pods from U-Haul?
Yeah.
If the moving pods out there, they're just
So
paying a
trailers,
lot of
whether
money to
attached
U-Haul.
or unattached, also fall under
Is
the
that-
commercial vehicles.
Oh, it does, okay.
Yep.
Has this been a problem?
Council brought it up to us as a concern to consider if we have a problem and whether or not our ordinances are sufficient enough to deal with the problem. If they're sufficient, then it's an enforcement problem. And if it's not sufficient, then we need to make a recommendation to propose something
Okay, I just
to,
was
that's better
curious
for
if-
enforcement.
If there has been,
Yes, council has requested that we investigate this. They've seen concerns, they've heard concerns from villagers, but we want to trustee Sally, go ahead. Stop speaking for you.
Right here.
Yeah, so I'll say, when it was raised at council, and I'll just go off of what was said, because I wasn't one of the parties that brought it, I think was more along things being stored on properties as far as
Boats on trailers.
no, it was more like, just like garbage being left out in the yard, like excessive amounts of garbage. And then there were certain indications where I had alluded to, I had a resident reach out to me where I think in the winter they took pictures of machinery that was next to the river. And so that was something that raised. And so Stuart and I talked about, well, some of this might already be covered, but I'm not sure that they were thinking about like the parking of vehicles as much as they were thinking about like an
Meter.
example would be a rundown vehicle, inoperable vehicle being stored on a property, right? I don't know, excessive overgrowth. I don't know what that would look like, right? That's why we were kind of looking at it. So I think it's perfectly fine to bring it back.
when you have your grass growing.
I love my grass.
We all feel like we better get back home right now.
So I think it's one of the, go mow the yard. I need to. Is that I think it's fine to bring to council. I will say, Linda, to your point, I think that it was more in line with things that become unsightly rather than you've had something parked in your driveway for too long. Now, I think that becomes difficult to say what is the definition of unsightly, which is why I think it's perfectly fine to say, not sure this is within your purview, council, but speak to provide better direction on what you want or do not want.
Okay, thank you.
So I actually had an issue with this when DTE was doing all of that, like clear cutting on Telegraph. They have left this giant spool of wire in our neighborhood since that happened. It's been 3 years, and I called them about it because they abandoned it, and I called them and they were like, oh, we'll come deal with it. They rolled it onto the property owner's space so that they had to take care of it. This is like a giant container of wire, and people actually came and tried to steal it, but it was too heavy, and DT still hasn't gotten rid of it. But then if you look into all of those trees on Telegraph, there is so much down wire that they just abandoned, and like I had no way of. Now what do I do? Like
You call the news
it's just-
station and
but,
tell
like,
them,
it's just
you call the news and tell
disgusting,
them.
But they do that everywhere, and like even if they're working in our backyards, that happens.
Well-
and it's not clear who do you call when this happens, when they won't clean up their own mess?
And
then it was
unfortunately,
city-
this is
yeah.
only against homeowners, so.
Yeah, but,
this would
well, I
be
know,
Totally
so-
ineffective against.
But it did say on city
corporation.
property, and it was on like the sidewalks, and so then I was like, okay, but then technically, is that Bingham, because it's the sidewalks on Telegraph, and it became really difficult to.
Is it all,
fix, and you
is it
never-
all still there?
Yeah,
Okay. Call the news station and tell them DT did that and see how bad PR gets them to move it as quickly as possible.
Well, I think a village administrator would be helpful in this regard too, because, or village president in that regard. This is one of those things where we could probably make things move, especially if it's DTE right now. I think there's an opportunity.
it was years ago.
I know it's years ago,
Yeah, it was just
but it's
one of
still
those
there.
things of
But it's
like-
still
But then it's not just in our spot in the village, you see it, I feel like it's, I think we're looking at residences, but I think one of the things that was mentioned was city property, and we see this all the time with the utility vehicles and things like that, they often get left out and things like that, where it does then become a safety concern. So I don't know if there is something we can look at in regards to that, or how that looks, but it's something that I know I have personally seen them do of just, okay, well, we'll put it onto the neighbors, and then but it's not their stuff, and they didn't know how to deal with it.
Just cut off a foot every week and put it in the garbage.
It's really expensive wire, but.
You can keep it and sell it.
Well,
It's abandoned,
you might-
it's abandoned.
Yes, all right, I get your point, and some of it is on the village to help support those type
Yeah.
of situations.
Just by saying what you did right now is in the record and will be known.
So,
I was like, what do I call them?
but yes, so that's where our village can advocate for us in those regards, because we're not very big as individuals, but as a village we are, so.
So I would just say, it seems to me that it's, pretty much everything that's been mentioned, and that's what I think we need to find out. The things that we aren't including, most of the things that sounds like you're concerned about, David, we spent a good amount of time going over vehicles, all that sort of stuff. I don't remember when it was. I think it was.
2020,
So, not that long ago.
Yeah, we did.
We do.
November 2020.
It's enforcement, unless there are things that we're missing.
Well, no,
Like you
yes.
point out the fertilizer.
Yeah, it sounds like from a recommendation that we're missing a few things.
Right.
Yeah.
that we
Well,
need to
but
clean
it
up.
doesn't, most of those things that were in there, I don't see those as being things that we don't already talk about, but that's the trick, is identifying clearly what those are.
Okay, so just like what Jeremy said though, there are a few items that I think that we can address that are in there. But the things that are already in there, are they things that need to be addressed? And if they're not being addressed, based on what we're seeing, then we need to either bolster the ordinance, make a recommendation for those ordinances, especially Sally, yeah.
Yeah, so I think one thing that would be helpful, just based off of that feedback real quick, is in this diagram, for council, if we have type of nuisance, general explanation, and then whether we have current coverage within our ordinance, some short recap is just a quick visual aid to say, yeah, we do think it is or is not covered,
Yep.
or whether we need to go further.
Okay.
Thank you.
And that's really what you're asking for us to do anyway right now, not make a recommendation for an ordinance.
Yeah.
So, Chris, let's add commercial vehicles and a little bit more description on that to this table.
Don't we already have all that?
It's not in here specifically though, but then.
But it's already in our
No,
ordinance.
the point is like, then add a column that says it's
Covered
covered
or
by ordinance, whatever.
Right.
Covered, yes or no?
You covered yes or no, and I mean, it'd be helpful
A citation.
for a citation, if we could do that.
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay, do we want to review that document before going to council? I'm guessing we do. So by next meeting, we could have the table updated with
Sure,
the column and the additional row for commercial vehicles, and what that means.
sure. Yeah, I can do that.
Reference the code number.
Yeah, reference, site
Yeah.
code number, and then if there's no code number, then it's not covered, right?
Right.
So,
Or it's not.
Because I don't see.
yeah, or insufficiently covered, call it out.
I
right?
don't see anything in here that isn't covered. I guess flammable combustible liquids,
Well, let's.
but
let's
fair
review it.
enough.
Let's review it.
Yeah.
Does that seem reasonable?
Yes.
Have we worn down enough tonight? Okay, so, All right, so no motion just yet. We'll motion next month if we feel, unless we feel like we need to change, to send the council the spread, the table. So any other general discussion on this topic? Yes, Linda,
No,
please.
not on this, not on this.
Okay,
But I
so-
do have one thing before we adjourn.
Okay, so, nothing else on this topic. Okay, just real quickly before you, so there are two, seats that are up for reappointment for planning, this year, myself and Linda. Council is going to take care of that next month with the recommendation of, I would like to be reappointed if they would have me.
And as would I.
And as
Sent
you-
my letter in.
And you sent your application, good. Okay, so, but, all right, so anyway,
We may not see you next month.
that's what I'm saying, yeah, you may not see, well, next month you, well, yeah, I mean, you might not see me next month.
Good luck in your future endeavors.
But either way, and then Chris, I believe next month we would, after the appointment is made for the year, then we go ahead and do, reappointment of our village office, our, planning officers, right? So chairperson and secretary and vice chair, correct? Is it July? I mean, it's August?
I've got the bylaws here.
What page is it?
Yeah, I don't know, I
I'll find
don't remember them ever lining
your
up
copy?
like that.
No,
Okay, all right.
no. I did want to check though. You said that the historic meeting is on the sixth?
It's on, it's on the
6th of August.
fourth.
And it's on the,
Is it on, that's
Is it the website wrong?
Wednesday. The sixth is Wednesday.
You did.
the website's wrong?
Could be the website's wrong, but the first Monday of August is the
It's the
fourth.
fourth.
Yeah.
But it's scheduled August 6th for, on their calendar, is the calendar wrong? Or is it right? I don't know.
Because it's always Monday night, isn't it?
I'm sorry?
Usually a Wednesday night.
Oh,
So
then
it's
it is.
Wednesday,
Yeah.
the sixth.
Oh, good, thank you, Heather. We always used to get
Okay.
these and I haven't seen one in forever.
I'll send one to your email.
Thank you.
Nice.
It says, election of officers at the first regular meeting in July. The officers of the planning commission shall be elected by a
Yes.
majority vote.
That's why it's peculiar that the appointments, usually
Haven't
the
been made
appointment,
yet.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, well,
But I think
council's been busy with something else right now, so.
yeah,
This happened last year too, though, where the appointments were delayed a month, so
like 2 months, 3
Um,
months, I don't know.
I mean, we could we could do the appointments today, still, I guess. I'm not prepared to do it right now.
And you may not be here next.
And then I went out, you have to do it again.
We're gonna be out partying. We're a package deal.
So, okay.
Well, while on the topic, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, no,
Wait.
no, hold on.
I have one thing, that because it was on public record, I feel like I need to clarify it. Earlier this evening, during public comments, the member of the public that spoke made a statement that Councilman Seltzer was worried that his house was going to catch fire and that she hoped he disclosed it to the buyer. I watched that meeting. He never stated that he was worried his house was going to catch fire. He was referring to the fact that he is out of town frequently and that a recent fire in Bingham Farms made him think about his house being vacant and worrying about that. And also that there is no place in Michigan seller's disclosure law that states that a seller has to disclose any fears or thoughts that they have. So I just did not want that cast onto him that there would, that was a matter of interpretation.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.